Hello, this video is going to be specifically about creating 5/7 of 4 chords in major. And the reason why this topic gets its own special video is because we're not actually going to be creating leading tones, secondary leading tones, but rather sevenths. So let me explain. So we have so far been talking about creating secondary leading tones in order to create secondary dominant chords. And basically what that means is we're taking a whole step somewhere in the major scale. So for example, F to G in C major, which is of course Fa to So, as you see here. And in order to lead to that second note, in order to lead to So, we raise the F to F sharp, creating a secondary leading tone. So where there was a diatonic whole step, now we have a half step. And of course, half step is required for a leading tone. So what do you do to tonicize a note that already has a half step below it diatonically? Well, you can't create a leading tone as shown here. This is a 1/6 to 4 to 5 to 1. Take a listen. And so let me show you the issue with this as it is now. The analysis is correct right now, but if I were to try to create a secondary dominant chord of F, which is what we want to do, right? We want to tonicize 4 now. F, the dominant of F is C. Okay, so C major, though, is actually just the 1 chord, right? It's just tonic. And so that becomes a problem if we want to create a triad that's a secondary dominant chord. We actually can't do it. This chord, we can't have a chord that is 5 of 4 in major, just 5 of 4. What we can do is create a 5/7 of 4. And so rather than creating a secondary leading tone, we have to go back to this chord, C major. So in this example, it's our second chord, and think, okay, if this is going to be the secondary dominant, I have 2 options. I can make it a triad. Normally you have 2 options. So make it a triad, a major triad, or make it a 7th chord. So that's a dominant 7th, in other words, a major triad with a minor 7th. And that's what I have to do here. So now turn this into a C7, right? Now it's 5/7 to 1 in F major. In other words, get rid of this, it's 5/6/5 of 4 in this case, right? So this is just a 7th chord in first inversion. Now all I need to do is add that 7th in here. So I need to change a note. I'm going to take this melody note, which of course is doubled. I have 2 C's in this chord right now. I'm going to move it down. So now it's the 7th of C, but be careful. Remember that we need to have an accidental, right? In order for a chord to be a secondary dominant, it needs to have a note that's outside of the key. So something other than the 7 notes of the major scale of the key that you're in. So that's where the accidental comes in. If I were to just think about the anatomy of this chord, it's a 5/7 chord, major triad, minor 7. I have the major triad down here in the left hand, no problem. In order to get the minor 7th, I have to think about the root. So that's C natural up to some sort of B, which is a 7th, but it has to be minor 7th. So that's where I find B flat. So let me add that flat in there. And now take a listen to this whole chord. Ah, there's that dominant 7th sound, right? So C7, major triad, minor 7th. Now take a listen to this chord progression. Where the C triad, which is just a 1 chord, becomes a C7, which leads us to 4. And then we have the rest of the progression here. Let me just fix some Roman numerals. Rest of the progression here, just to recontextualize us and give us a nice cadence back in our home key of C. So this is what that sounds like all together. Right, and it sounds briefly like we moved to F, right? because this B flat. Now, if you want to think about key signatures, what's the key signature of F major? Well, it's just one flat, right? It's that B flat. And so the only difference between the key signatures of C major and F major in terms of what the pitches are, what pitches we have to use is B, instead of B natural in C, we get B flat in F. And so it makes a lot of sense if you think about the key signatures that in order to go from a C major to briefly a secondary key of F major, all we need to do is take B natural, make it B flat, right? And so now listen to that one more time. Awesome. And so you see that this one chord, what could have been maybe even a 1-7 chord or a 1 major 7 chord with the B natural, now takes on the secondary function of the 5-6-5 of 4. So let's try one more example of this. We're starting here on this chord. We're still in C major. So we're starting in this chord, and then we're going to end up on 4, of course. So I can do lead sheet symbols right away. Let me start with the Roman numeral that I have. I know that 4 in C is going to be F, so that's where I am headed. That's our goal. And what's this chord here? This looks to me like A, right? A, C, E. So this is A minor. So again, I'm coming from a different chord now. So let's see how we can make this one work. Instead of coming from C major and having a secondary dominant to F, I'm starting from A minor and then having a secondary dominant to F from there. So I know what I have to do, right? I know what this middle chord has to be. It has to be C7, right? Because I'm tonicizing 4, which is F. The dominant of F is C7, right? So 5-7 to 1 in F major. And so I can actually take this Roman numeral, borrow that from here as well. 5, and then we get a nice 7, 5-7, right? Again, this chord, the secondary dominant of 4, is only possible as a 7th chord. And A minor, to complete my Roman numerals, in C, A minor is, of course, 6. And this is root position. So let me do my bass line here, F, and for that, C, right? So this makes a lot of sense to me now. I have A, C, F. These are just the roots. I'm just going to try to do root position for now. And think about the accidental that I'm going to have to add. Think about the chromatic pitch that's going to be required here. Now, there's a couple of things you can do here. You can sort of, and I encourage you to first just figure out what are all the pitches that I need in a C7 chord, right? And so this one's simple, but when you get into more complex keys, it'll be important to sketch this out first. So what I mean is just go one chord at a time, or one note at a time, stack the thirds and make sure that we have the major third, perfect fifth, minor seventh, right? And then we can voice this chord. So think about common tones. This is just like your standard fare in terms of voice leading. So I want to take this E and keep that where it is. The note C here, either of these C's could drop down, right, to a B flat. So that would be good. Let me do it up in the soprano here. No, actually, let's do it in an inner voice. We've been doing the chromatic tones in the soprano a lot, but they can happen in any voice. So I'm going to keep that C there. What I'm actually going to do is take, with this C7, is omit the fifth. So I've doubled the root and omitted the fifth. So here's what I have so far. Right? And notice how that really wants to resolve now to F. Now just think about all the voice leading. Where are my tendency tones? So by tendency tones, what do I mean? I mean definitely the seventh of the chord. Again, not scale degree 7, not T, certainly not Te, but the seventh of the chord. So in C7, that's B flat. B flat coming down to A here, because of course the seventh of any chord always has to resolve down by a step. So B flat to A. Another tendency tone is the leading tone. Whenever possible, you want that leading tone to go up. So E up to F. And then can I complete this triad? Yeah, actually the soprano can just stay put on the C, and then I get a complete triad. That's great. So this is your example. Great. So I hope this helped. Let me know what questions you guys have in the discussion forums. Thank you.